Welcome back, Summoners. You just saw SK Gaming take a turnaround win from Fnatic, and I'm here with Leedy Mensweat and Trevor Quickshot Henry to break down that match. A great game to start off the summer split here, in my opinion. Let's start off by the early game, because Fnatic actually had a really strong showing, and especially Cyanide on that at least, just doing very good all over the map.
Yeah, it really started strong. It's something that Cyanide has done many times in the past. If you look at his all-star performances when he was playing Kha'Zix, we were talking about upstairs how Cyanide finds a way to get kills. He has an impact early, but then can't carry it through. You know, he was sitting 3-0-3 at one point, which was great. It helped Fnatic, but then they got to the inner turrets of SK Gaming and everything just fell apart. They couldn't get past the towers. They didn't have a siege composition, and Cyanide's early prowess ended up equating to nothing.
Yeah, and it was interesting just to hear from Jesus back then. He said himself, he says, I knew that Cyanide was going to be coming for me. He knew it was happening. Maybe it's because he said in the video that Cyanide got a really limited champion pool. I don't know. So he was kind of expecting a backlash. But Svenskeren as well. You know, both of these junglers were very good during the spring split and have continued their prominence here in the summer split. Good start from both junglers. We'll see how it continues.
Yeah, because on the other hand, we also see things reoccurring for both teams that Cyanide couldn't carry through the game. And again, SK Gaming not being able to dominate that early game straight off the bat. And we actually have a replay of how they did pull the game back in their favor. You can pull that replay up on the screen right now.
Yeah, so the one thing that I really want to highlight is at 17 minutes, SK Gaming are 4,000 gold behind. They are 5 kills down, but they've done a good enough job. They're still even on towers, 3-3. The one thing I want to highlight is throughout the spring split, SK Gaming always fell behind in the laning phase. They seldom went even or ahead, but they always stalled the mid game, and they used their superior strategic and map movements to get back in the game. So let's roll this clip out. You'll notice the rest of Fnatic are pushing on the bottom lane. You can see pings there. SK Gaming are grouped up. They have 4 members moving themselves towards that top tower. They're immediately going to dive onto Yellowstar. Yellowstar does the best that he can to fend off this assault. But at the end of the day, SK Gaming just have a better position and a better game plan. They focused on the tower. So as, honestly, he's milling around. I have no idea what his game plan was. He ends up giving up a kill in 30 or 40 seconds. I have no idea what was going through his mind, and it's something he needs to think about. What we just seen there at the end was a teleport from Freddy. He was moving himself to the bottom lane. He defended his own tower. So SK Gaming got a kill, a tower, defended the tower, and another kill onto Soaz later in the game. All from just calling and communication while being 4K down in gold.
And this is something we've talked about so often through the spring split, was the fact that SK would always be slow at the start, yet they'd always manage to pull it back. Their teamwork would always get them back in the game.
Yeah, it's something that SK as a team, they don't necessarily have the strongest individual players, but they're making it very clear in this very first game and all throughout the previous split, their analytical approach to the game is something that's working very well. I know you're bringing up quite often during All-Stars that SK have this analyst, they have a coach, they have a sports psychologist.
Yeah.
And it helped Jesus with his game. It's definitely helping the team with theirs.
Yeah, I mean, we heard Fnatic, of course, talking about it in the pre-show, talking about how it has affected them. It's something we mentioned, obviously, with Fnatic when we were at All-Star. It's what a lot of the Korean teams do. The Chinese teams have it. We're seeing, of course, the North American teams. We've got Monte Cristo, of course, so with CLG now merging everything in there. Maybe it's time that the European teams look at SK Gaming, who were a brand new team at the start of the spring split and went on to top the league. They need to look at their approach and maybe start listening to these guys, because clearly it works.
Yeah, an analyst can be so central to the performance of the team, and maybe an analyst is someone that could say, maybe not go for that Aurelia first pick.
Strong words, but truthfully. Soaz and Aurelia didn't do well at All-Star. 0-6-3,
something like that, yeah.
Around about there. This game, 0-3 again. Not only the champion didn't really work out, his in-game decision-making was a little questionable.
That 1v3, you got to wonder what was going on there. I mean, you could see he was trying to maybe set up, get a quick kill on towards Yellowstar, get something on the board, but everybody knows, even now, no matter how strong you are, going 1v3 has got to be a huge play, and it backfired and made him look bad.
Yeah, a lot to study up on for Fnatic, but great performance by SK Gaming once again. But as for now, we're going to head back over to Joe and Officio at the desk for our next match. But first, let's take a closer look at Millennium's underdog victory in the summer promotion tournament that got them back into the LCS and the summer split.
Right after we placed 8th and we knew we would face NIB, I think all of us were a bit not really confident.
It was really tough times for us as a team. We knew that NIP is incredibly strong. They dominated the whole challenger scene, so it's gonna be really hard.
Like NIP had a really good showing before, and They definitely deserve the praise they got.
I just went to the promotion match with my head down and I hoped for the best.
Going back to game 1, I was like, oh, NRP looked very, very strong. After game 3, all of a sudden I think Millennium is the favorites now.
Well, here we go then into game number 4. It's 2-1 to Millennium.
We should have taken it as well, just some miscommunication and some misplays.
Crimson got a little bit too far forward, and that is a lot of damage coming his way. He's going to get focused. Nukduk actually is going to blow him up. Coronex may find himself in trouble. 70 seconds for Coronex, 60 as well for Crimson. Millennium making the mistake, which may end up costing them a place in the LCS.
Yeah, after that, people felt a bit angry and dismotivated as well, especially like Kotangs, because he's kind of new to that, so I told him to calm down.
It kind of helped me get over it, so I could like reset my mind and go into the next game.
Just the anger that we lost such a game gave us a lot of boost for the last game, and yeah, we just wanted to show that we are actually EU LCS material.
Nukduk does come across, he's going to go for Crimson, but he's dead. Millennium win the game 3-2 and secure their spot in the LCS Summer Split.
Most of the people didn't believe that we could actually beat them, but we did, and it felt great actually.
Oh, I think all of us knew that they were the favorites, but somehow we managed to pull together as a team and win the game.
Now the start with the summer split, it's kind of for everyone just a wake-up call to see that they didn't practice that much, that they didn't do everything they could to win.
We're not gonna waste our second chance. I'm pretty sure that for the next 3 months I'm gonna play 12 hours a day, because I just promised myself that I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna deliver.
You just like want to win as a team. You want to start playing as a team.
I went to All Stars to get my motivation back, like getting the desire to be on the stage, being one of the best.
If we don't do the same mistakes as the spring split and people keep the performance they have at the beginning now, I think we can go to World Championship. I think we have a good shot on that.
In the last split we had the kind of loser's mindset, and right now everything resets.
We just trust in ourselves. We are a team, and we believe in ourselves, and we know that we are actually really good. I think we definitely can surprise LCS and the people who don't believe in us or who think Millennium is trash and they will be again at the bottom of the LCS. Maybe it will go like that, but we will try everything to surprise people and to kind of see their faces when we are on the top.
Absolutely great to see Millennium having a little bit more confidence back in their game, because that's something that seemed to haunt them when it came to the spring split here in Europe. Welcome back, guys, to our second game of the European Summer Split here in Europe as ROC take on Millennium. ROC secured third place, of course, and surprised everyone in the last split. They started the season as a mysterious team who picked Mordecai as a mid and even had the Polish version of Mad Life on Thresh.
It's a very nice title, Joe. I really like that for Vanderlife, of course. And Rocket, they're a team who showed great teamwork and individual play from the start of the split. And then they relied on these tricky picks and, of course, the clutch engages as a team.
And while Rocket had a great start last split, they slowed down a little bit towards the playoffs. Their surprise picks didn't really work out anymore. Maybe you could argue that with the Akali in the playoffs. And they started losing the laning phase, which is key. They were never really able to come back if they lost that early game. And they focus on fighting for objectives, which you just can't do if you're too far behind.
Exactly. And in general, Rocket rarely fights unless it's for an objective or if it's a high reward, low risk situation. Rocket as a team only had 260 deaths in the spring split, which is the lowest of all the teams, and had a 9.3 average deaths per game as a team. However, their assist total is the worst in the league, so it really shows how little they decided to team fight, unless it was calculated and focused around these objectives. And this is reflected in how they stole the most buffs, 82 in total during the spring split, and they took 45 dragons when they won the games, but still had the least amount of dragons in Europe. And this just shows their inability to come back after falling behind in the early game.
Some very conflicting stats when you look at the
there
numbers
it goes,
on
like
paper
up and down.
How it was really working out for them. On the other side, Millennium made it through the spring split the hard way. After finishing in last place, they had to take on the Ninjas in Pajamas to stay in the LCS and managed to pull off a fantastic win in that epic best-of-5 promotion game.
Millennium, they showed they can adapt in a best-of-5 series. And if you look at Game 1, they lost every lane and quickly just lost the game. Game 2 started out the exact same way, but this time Millennium actually managed to extend the game. And then they turned it around for the win after, I believe, 72 minutes. Going into Game 3 then, they stuck to the tactic of just surviving the early game and then working the clock with a superior late game comp. NIP, they never had an answer to the defensive tactic from Millennium, and therefore they just ended up losing.
And Kevin and Cottonex really stood out for me as the star players for Millennium in that series. Cottonex played absolutely amazing on Nocturne, and Kevin stuck to more late game carries like Rise and Jax.
And both players have simply kept up the strong performance from the entire last split, actually. Cottonex, he showed he's a carry jungler who can put the team on his back if he gets the needed farm and the needed kills. Kevin, he managed to go even in laning phase against Sora Zero, and then he scaled into the late game where he would join forces with Cottonex to simply carry the fights. And Kevin's performance all season has been great. He has the second highest KD of the EU top laners. He also has the most kills of top laners in Europe. And both him and Cottonex, they are the players which need to perform for Millennium this split. Otherwise, we might just see them end in the bottom spot once again.
Well, let's check out the starting lineups for this game. On the blue side, it's ROC with Zazas in the top lane, Jankos in the jungle, Overpower in the mid lane, Celiver the AD carry, and Vander on support.
On the red side, we have Millennium, Kevin in the top lane, Cottonex is in the jungle, Curb in the mid lane, Creaton as the AD carry, and Jiri is on the support.
We talked a lot there about Cottonex and Kevin, but we should probably talk a little bit about the rest of the team as well. The likes of Jiri, who, he's a naturally quiet person and as such somehow manages to stay out of the spotlight while still picking up weird stuff in the support role. We've seen Zillion, for example, out of him this year.
He has a lot of weird ideas. I've talked with him a few times. I mean, all of a sudden he wanted to play Warwick support as well. There's a lot of weird ideas going on here, and from time to time, the team actually lets him pick one of these weird supports like Zillion or the Blitzcrank, and it actually works out for him pretty much all the time. He makes big plays on these champions, and his mechanics when it comes to skill shots, very, very strong. That's why he can play Blitzcrank, and that's why he can play Thresh on this very high level and make the plays. So it's a very good support to have because you don't have to rely on someone else to make the big play. He can actually do it for you.
And let's be honest, that was SKT's surprise pick that they teased
we've seen
everyone
in Europe
about.
Forever, man.
Zillion, that's all about
Last split as well.
They've obviously been watching Jiri and Millennium when they got their ideas for that one. Creaton as well, who for me has been in the past one of the most incredible, outstanding AD carries. He said himself that last year, we heard it in that video, that he played more solo queue in the last 3 days than he did in the entire last split. Not sure really how much he played in the last split then.
No, it's actually a little bit sad.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like much to me.
No, and it's a big issue actually for quite a lot of teams. When some of the players lose a bit of motivation, they start to play less solo queue, only play scrims, and that's it. You drop down mechanic-wise, that's how it is. Creaton, back in the summer split, when he played, the team was called Alternate. Before he broke his hand, I actually think he was the best AD carry in Europe at the point. Then he broke his hand, he was gone for a few weeks, came back and never really was the same. I'm not sure how much motivation he lost back then, but if he can find his old form here, he can really become, again, one of the best AD carries in the league, and that's what Millennium needs, because the rest of the players, they're actually good players. They don't have a superstar. They don't have a hard carry, a guy who say, this guy, he will always perform, he will always do well. They have a lot of players who's doing their job, but they're not doing anything special. Creaton could be the guy. If he's the guy, could actually mean Millennium could all of a sudden become a very strong team.
And that's the thing as well, if we think about the story with Creaton and the hand, Ultimate were actually doing incredibly well up until the point when he did that. And let's be honest, it's not like in any, in football, for example, when someone breaks a leg, sometimes they come back and they're just not quite the same player. It's not a physical thing with Creaton, it's definitely more of a mental thing. He said himself that he struggles to really find the motivation, and in that video, a real positive sign from my side of things is that he said, I realized that if I want to go to Worlds, that I have to do that for myself, that I can't rely on other people to put the hours in for me, that he needs to be the guy that carries him and his team further on in his career.
He needs to be the guy, and then Curb needs to be more consistent in the mid lane. He has some fantastic games where he's like 5-0 LeBlanc, killing everyone, and then he has the opposite, where he goes 0-5 and does absolutely nothing. Like he had a Swain pick, fantastic champion. Didn't work for him. He went 0-6, did absolutely nothing. Next game he played LeBlanc, went 5-0. I mean, he needs to be more consistent. And if he can actually also find the right play style, the right champions, and then the team can build things around him as a mid laner, again, they have good players. They just need to be more serious when it comes to practice, and they need to be more determined when it comes to what champions to play, what play style do we want to use. And then if we look back at the promotion games against NIP, they need to be able to do better in the early game. Because they lost the early game, they lost the laning phase, then they managed to defend for 20, 30 minutes, and then when it came down to late game team fights, they had the stronger comp, and they managed to play them better than NIP, and therefore won the games. It's not like we saw Millennium go in, take full control of the map from minute 10, take all the objectives to destroy NIP. It didn't happen. They need to work in the early game. They need to be better at shot calling, quick decision making. And then, as a team, they just need to practice a lot more. It's what they're all talking about.
Well, just a quick update for you here. Creatine having a machine swap here, so should be able to get himself ready in just a few seconds. That's all been done, so he's just getting his settings all up to date. Let's talk about their opponents a little bit more, because he talked a lot about Millennium here. But ROC, we mentioned it right at the start of this game, that they were a team that everyone said, KMT, coming into this LCS spring split.
You're telling me.
We thought, well, yeah, exactly. The fact that they got into the spring split was a surprise for some people, that's for sure. But people didn't expect ROC to come flying out of the gates like they did. And I wonder what ROC have done in this break as well, what they've actually trained themselves up. As you mentioned, Overpower is a guy who really doesn't always go for the conventional. We've seen him play Mordekaiser, we've seen him playing Akali in the playoffs against SK Gaming, which worked out for them in their first game. Actually, they ended up winning that one. But it's not really about the strange picks, but more about being more consistent, I think, from ROC's side.
Exactly. I mean, Overpower and Kerb, pretty much the same style when it comes to one game he goes 5-0 on Pantheon mid or Mordekaiser mid. Next game he picks Orianna and goes 0-5. We saw it last split. He needs to be more consistent. ROC as a team, also in the early game, it was the issue for them. Whenever they got a good start, they would actually win the game. Whenever they got a bad start, they just dropped it.
Well, here we go then. We're into Champ Select here. It's ROC versus Millennium. Who's going to get what? And will Overpower bring out something a little bit crazy for us here once again in the opening week of the summer split? First ban out of the gate is Ziggs. Not really a surprise if you look at games against Millennium. Ziggs has been banned a ton against Kerp.
And also a champion. Millennium has been used to just extend the games. Go late game, be very strong in the last team fight, so I like the fact you just ban it away instantly. Twitch again being banned away. It is really an AD carry nobody wants to deal with, because at the moment he is so strong. I actually think him and Lucian together are the two strongest AD carries, and nobody actually comes close.
Very targeted bans here as well. We see LeBlanc straight in towards Kerp on the other side. Overpowers what has been in the past terrifying Kayle taken away. Jankos on Elise has been a big force for them. And Lulu as well taken away. A champion that both Xaxus and Overpower have played. This is interesting though, because we said at game one, Kassadin has been weakened more in this patch, but we believe that he is still extremely strong. Expected him to be a red side ban throughout the day. He gets through and it's a first pick for ROC.
I think this is very risky for Millennium side, because Kassadin, his Q, his shield was nerfed, the ratio went down, the base value went down, but that was it. And he's still such a strong champion. Going to the late game part, he snowballs out of control. It's what Kassadin does here, so it's a risky thing for Millennium, especially because they are a team who normally focus on the late game. That's also why we see them locking in the Jax. One of the best, if not the best, top laner when it comes to late game parts. And they're basically just trying to respond with, you have a strong late game pick, we have now a strong late game pick.
Taking the Thresh there as well for J-Ree in the support role. We'll see what he can bring to the table playing that Thresh. Actually, has not played masses of Thresh in the later stages of last split either. He was in a similar position to what we saw Yellow Star in, early season. They were fighting over this Thresh pick, but then realized, okay, we maybe don't want it as much. It's going to have it this time around. Now we're on to ROC at second and third picks. Will we see Graves coming in again? It's definitely become a lot more popular.
I'm still not 100% sold on Graves overall as an AD carry. I think Lucian brings a lot more. I think there's certain other AD carries who can bring more. Kog'Maw, Bane, for instance, could bring more to the table than a Graves here. What I do like about him is in an upfront battle against the likes of a Jax, he does more damage because of his box shot, because of his ultimate hitting the first target, doing more damage. And of course with the dash away, he becomes fairly tanky. He's passive as well, gets more armor, more magic resist, so he can survive a little bit better against the likes of a Jax here. But now, Kha'Zix's just been locked in as well. 2 people? Nope.
This is a very strong lineup without really saying much more than that. Kha'Zix's going to be locked in here. We've seen how dangerous Cottonex is on that Kha'Zix. And then Lucian for Creaton. As you mentioned, Lucian without a doubt up there in the top 2 AD carries right now. Creaton played a whole bunch of him, picked him up whenever he can get his hands on it.
So again, I actually think Millennium, looking at how the champs like win now, they said, we actually don't mind giving you Kassadin. We know there's a very high chance you will first pick it, so we take the 2 most wanted pick for us, Jax and the Thresh. Had they locked in Jax for Rocket as the first pick, Kassadin been locked in for Millennium then. So they actually gave away a very strong pick, got 2 in advance, and then because Rocket decided to go with Lee Sin and Graves here, actually opened up for Kha'Zix and Lucian. However, Kha'Zix nerfed on his patch as well. It's harder for him to find a target alone. The isolation is now up to 500 units. It was 350 before, so it's a bit harder for him to get this extra damage. And also his ultimate now, the stealth, is 2 seconds cooldown instead of only 1, which it was before between stacks.
So continuing the late game kind of premise and comps that they're going
so
for
late
here.
game.
Rai's going to be picked up for the top lane for Xaxus. They took Zyra here as a support. The final pick as well, move straight over to that, is a Fizz in the mid lane there for Kurt up against Overpower's Kassadin.
So the old Kassadin, before the rework here, Fizz was a very strong counter against him because he could never get close to you. Now though, with the spell shield, or with the spell shield he gets from his Q, he can actually do fairly well. Still, Fizz should have full control of the lane, but Kassadin at least won't be destroyed like he used to do against the Fizz here. So we're gonna see how it goes in the mid lane. But Millennium side, everything scales into late game. Rocket side, Rise Kassadin goes into late game really well. Graves, decent in the late game. It's gonna be hard for him though because of the shorter range as well on Graves. Against Jax, Kha'Zix and Fizz, I mean, they're just gonna jump you and destroy you instantly if you just get too close at any point, and that's where Graves will have issues because of the shorter range, and therefore I give the late game heavily actually, except for how it goes with Kassadin. But I really think the late game comp here for Millennium is so strong.
Well, guys, let's take a look at your votes for this match. According to the numbers over on LOLesports.com, 82% of you think that ROC will take the win. Not surprising if you factor in the whole positioning and final positions of the spring split here, where ROC surprised everyone, grabbed the 3rd. Millennium were right down at the bottom, of course, in 8th position after that. But I think it's after each team has had time to practice, or not, as the case may have been. We'll have to figure that one out as we go along. But I think that this game is a lot more closer than those numbers.
I agree. I think also looking at the comps here, it can of course, you can always say, yeah, we don't know exactly what's going to happen. A team can make a big mistake and fall far behind. But if you look at the comps here, if Millennium gets to play the way they want, safe, early mid game, get to late game, with all these champions here, they can do everything on the map. You can split push with Jax in the top lane, Fizz in the bottom lane, keep the Thresh and the Lucian in the mid lane to siege a tower, or always keep the wave pushed up here. And Rocket, it's going to be so hard for him to duel both Jax and Fizz in the late game parts here. But of course on the other side for Rocket, Ryze and Kassadin scales well into the late game as well. So it's not like they don't have anything to respond with.
Well, let's find out, shall we? There is a Q from Jankos landing perfectly onto J-Reed to reveal his position inside of that brush. Not exactly the biggest surprise that there were maybe some action around the red buff corner brush. Ooh, double ward.
Just for the swag.
One safer than 2. Yeah. Just saying.
You got so many wards now, the one anyway. Might
That's
as well
true.
Waste them all. However, actually one thing we didn't talk too much about. A lot of wards coming down here actually early. Full vision, no defensive wards from Rocket. They actually wanted to get in with some of the deeper wards. But a thing we didn't talk about, bottom lane wise, lane swaps. I mean, Zyra actually for most AD carry, or for most supports, is a little bit of a counter to Thresh. I mean, you're strong against him in the lane. However, one hook onto you and you might just die because you're very, very squishy. But the fact with 4.7, you don't have to start full trinkets anymore as a support. You can start the Spell Thief, and that's where Zyra is really strong with a poke.
And there we see Millennium moving back in there. Double ward strategy. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and call that a strategy. Is going to time out here any second. Now, Roccat are sat back, to be honest, so it looks like neither of these teams wanting to risk anything in the early game because, let's be honest, it's going to be a bit of a race to see who gets to the late game thing, the late game portion as fast as possible in this one. This is very interesting though. Cottonex coming around the side. Kevin is in there as well. The stun is going to come out here. Flash already there from Zazas, and Jankos is going to have to do exactly the same here to get out of trouble. That means that they're going to lose this blue buff. The question is, can he
actually got it?
Yeah, oh, he did get it. That's very, very true. I missed that one completely, but okay, so that's good for Roccat. It slows Jankos down, but it also gives a Rise of blue buff. We'll see what he can do with it, though.
Yeah, there was a lane swap, however, so he won't actually get to use this blue buff to try and poke down the Jax in a 1v1. Very smart decision, in my opinion, for Millennium to swap up top lane, get Jax in a lane where he can just get a few levels, then he can start going toe-to-toe with Rise. Otherwise, he's going to get poked a lot in the early levels against Rise here, especially also with the blue buff. However, it means now due to the failed invade actually from Millennium, there's only one buff over on the Cottonex side and two blue buffs for Roccat.
Quite a little bit pear-shaped for them there. Rise getting himself a blue buff, which, as you said, is going to help him clear out a few jungle camps quicker. Because he's not going to go straight down into, or straight up into that 1 versus 2. Of course, Creighton and Jerry got the 1 versus 2 going up on the top side of the map. Kevin, of course, doing exactly the same here with his jungler. Cottonex just trying to get as much XP early on in the game as they possibly can. Mid lane, I just want to touch on that one here. Both of them starting off with that Crystalline Flask. Very interested to see how the new Kassadin is going to do against Fizz.
I mean, Kerb, as we talked about in Champs, like, he will have control of the lane, and he just want to farm up. He wants to get to the late game point, but Fizz is so strong. I mean, you can one-shot an AD carry so easily. You can split push with Fizz late game. You become very hard to deal with. And also due to the lane swaps here, we need to see if Roccat still want to send people to try and gank and shut down Kerb in the mid lane, or to just leave them to one-on-one. Millennium, they seem to moving 2 members in the top side of Rocket's jungle, and Roccat actually responding by moving down towards the bottom lane. So no ganks towards the mid lane here in the start. Could actually have been an easy gank because Kerb's lane is pushing heavily towards overpower.
Interestingly enough as well, they're considering that so many trinkets available on Rockat's side. They've really got none of them, you know, on cooldown, and therefore wards on the map right now. They're quite happy to sit with men there, and they are actually going to go in for overpower. Very, very risky. We see the teleport from Zazas actually coming in, and that will put Millennium completely off the scent of diving for overpower.
Yeah, so Millennium actually get the teleport away from Zazas without any risk of them dying, because they could just back away instantly as it spawned. They knew the rest of the members from Roccat were down the bottom lane pushing the tower. So actually a very good move, and they don't need to send them up top lane. They don't need to send Kevin or Cottonex up to top lane to push the tower, because they can do it by themselves. They need to go back and defend the second tower though, with Millennium or Roccat, they're pushing towards it.
This is where a mistake could be made. Jerry and Creighton hammering away on that top outer turret, which is down to less than half HP. Zazas continues to sit here in the mid lane with overpower. Well, that bottom lane still has 3 men pushing in. Finally, Cottonex will start to move around. Kevin already in position, but a lot of damage coming in there. The plant and the buckshot coming out of Celibat, causing a couple of little issues there for Millennium trying to hold on to it. It's already lost half of its health. Not a good sign here for Millennium if this continues. And finally, J-Reed does come down from the base. That should force Roccat to back off.
Should force them away here, so Millennium respond well enough. Creighton up in the top lane should be able to take the tower, unless we see some quick rotations up from Roccat. I would actually like to see Zazas, instead of staying in the mid lane and splitting XP and getting some tower damage here, I actually like to see him move up to the top lane, because Roccat, they would know if Jerry doesn't go back to defend, the 3 members from Roccat can actually take the tower, and if Jerry then recalls to defend, it's only 1 member up in the top lane, so Zazas alone could actually hold the tower 1v1 against Lucian, because he's already level, I believe he's level 3 at the point, so he should be able to hold the tower. I actually like him to move up there, simply just to say, Millennium, if you move a member back to defend this tower, you won't kill this one, because I'm here to defend it now against against a single member. Instead, though, he's been in the mid lane, laning with overpower actually, sharing XP and now pushing onto the tower, getting quite some damage. However, Millennium should be able to react, unless Roccat now moves instantly from the bottom lane into the mid lane with 5 members and just straight up takes the tower.
And leaves an early Dragon pickup as well for them. Very, very possible with 3 men in bottom, 2 men in that mid lane as well. Your AD carry is not going to get there fast enough from the top side to even think about that one. Just a quick update here. Vander is just having a quick client restart, so hopefully that will be all fixed up here in just a second and he can get himself back into the game so we can continue this one. But early on, very, very interesting. A lot more about the map than it is about focusing certain lanes down in terms of kills.
Again, we had the invade onto the blue buff. Millennium moved in with both Kevin and Cotnex to try and stop the blue buff. Actually ended up going over to Sasus, so there was no blue buff from Cotnex. Ideal situation, of course. They want to go in and stop them from doing it, force them away, and they could take it for Cotnex. Then he could take the red buff and get double buff, and also share the XP with Kevin, so you can get some levels. Didn't get the blue buff, which meant 3 buffs over on the side of Rocket, and then both teams were, of course, lane swapped. Jankos went down bottom lane, took the tower, pushed it up towards the second tower, and that's where, of course, Rocket now needs to decide, do we want to go to defend the tower, do we want to go hard on the mid tower, or do we just want to back off? If they just everyone recalls, I feel like it's a wrong decision, because they actually have the pressure on the map, and they should force something away from Millennium here. Should force them to decide between getting a tower or losing a second tower, or at least something. I mean, losing the Dragon then. There's multiple options for them at the moment.
Well, guys, if you're just joining us, don't forget we are in a super week here in week 1 of the summer split. 16 games overall, 1 down, not even half of one. We're about 5.5 minutes into this one, so can't really call that a half at this point. Still so many games to go. And I want to talk a little bit about fantasy here, because the Banana Kings are in fact playing the Danish Dynamite today.
In our Office League, not in the Caster League.
That's it, we've got 2 because, well, I actually got good picks in both of them, so I'm quite happy with both.
I don't really agree.
We'll see by the end of today whether the Danish Dynamite go down to the Banana Kings. I think.
So the only issue about my name, especially in the Caster League, is I don't actually have any Danish players. So it's a bit of a with the name. Luckily, I managed to pick up Mr. Rales in the other league, and I'm looking forward to see what he can bring later in the day.
Going to be a very, very interesting season.
Let me just ask, what Fnatic players do you have?
I actually only have Reckless, who was 4-0 in that last game, so not all that bad.
I had Sana, though. Sana did pretty well.
Okay.
It's not too bad.
Okay, we'll see about that. Still a long way to go, as you said, here in week 1. Being a super week and all, we've got another 14 games to go after this one. Just another quick update. Vander seems to be on his way back into the game, so Rocket against Millennium will be getting back underway in just a sec.
We can just quickly talk about 4.7. What we've seen so far in these 2 games. Level 1s. A lot of wards being put down, a lot of vision, hard to late invade. That's also one of the reasons Millennium's late invade here failed. Rocket managed to get the blue buff fast enough. We didn't see any fights yet, not even in the last game. And then when it came to lane swaps, it's been the same deal. Sending 4 members to just straight up push a tower, people don't do it anymore. It's very rare. You can still do it. It's just a lot harder because it takes a lot more time to kill the towers. They take 30 less damage for the first 7 minutes. So it's very hard to kill them. And that's why we see these more slow lane swaps instead.
So here we go then, back into game. Hopefully everything sorted out here for Vander, and we can get this one back underway. So here's what we were trying to keep track of before. What is the move from Rocket going to be? They had 3 men there, and I talked about the easy dragon. That's what they're going for.
Yeah. Millennium actually tried to respond in case there would have been 5 members pushing the mid lane, because Jerry moved straight in there from the bottom lane to defend it, and Sasus actually went up to the top lane here. It's about the dragon for now. Jankos getting fairly low. Jerry's there to try and stop it.
Doing a good amount of damage here. Jankos actually falling real low. Teleport coming in as well. Jankos having to safeguard over. But here comes Kurt. He's level 6. He's got the ulti out. And Earth comes flying through for first blood for Millennium and a dragon.
Such a smart play by Jerry. He put down the lantern so Jax could teleport to it. Joining for the fight here. Got some damage on Jankos, who was tanking the dragon the entire time. Kurt picked up the first blood. Nothing better than when your assassin in the mid lane gets the first blood here. Sasus, he was up in the top lane. Teleport was gone because he used it in the mid lane. It means, however, he can at least defend the tower. So Rocket did some of it. Some of the things we talked about here actually really backfired for them going towards the dragon. I still feel like they should have gone mid lane with 5 members, have been a lot more safe.
Yeah, by easy dragon, I mean they're actually going to end up getting first blooded and losing the dragon. Of course, is what really happened by the end of that one. There's Overpower. He's, of course, level 6 now as well, so got the safety of that Rift Walk in there as Cottonex and J-Ree both came around to this mid lane just to make sure that there wasn't too much funny business gonna happen. If you look at first item there coming out from Curb, we'll touch on this top tower in just a second because that may go down here. Creaton pushing very, very far on through. The turret is surely going to fall, but Xaxus now gonna step forward here. Creaton knows that he's in big trouble. He's gonna go towards Xaxus. There's a lot of damage coming out. There's the Lancer. Oh, Jankos followed him through. The Hulk comes in as well, and Jankos goes down to the Colin.
Wow.
Mistimed follow through there on the Q. Creaton picking it exactly the right time, and Millennium again getting themselves a second kill, which looked like it wasn't going to go their way.
Millennium are just getting the kill. You just said it. I mean, the Lanterns from J-Ree twice now been MVP. First one so they could teleport, second one now so he follows up. Look here, Lantern being clicked, Jankos already second activated his Q, follows him, and then J-Ree just lands an easy hook, another kill for Millennium, and so far they're responding pretty well here, and Rocket been doing some of the wrong decisions. Xaxus should have been top lane earlier to defend so the tower wasn't so low, so this situation would actually never have happened.
That timing.
The Lanterns, man, J-Ree.
Exactly. We talked about Zillion earlier, but so far his smash has been pretty damn impressive. Team here just wandering up towards the Dragon area. Got themselves a big wall up down there as Cottonex went quite low there to his own red buff. Won't actually end up causing him too many problems, though he'll recall straight after that. And the first blue buff's been given over to the mid lane.
And also, Jankos is level 4, level 5 onto Cottonex here. He's been farming the entire time because he never actually had to go anywhere except for bot lane once to defend the second tower. He never had to go push somewhere. He just been farming together with Kevin down the bottom lane and then also in the jungle. Jankos, he was with the team in the bottom lane to try and push up there. Then he went for the dragon. It backfired. He's now actually very far behind, and he's already going to get outscaled really hard against the Kha'Zix because he's Lee Sin.
Keep a little bit of an eye on this mid lane. Overpower, despite having that bit of pressure onto him earlier on, he's now up past level 6, as I mentioned earlier on. Got himself that Catalyst boots and picking himself up quite a collection of wards as well to make sure that he's not pushed down too early. And there is the blue buff going over to him as well for that mid lane. Curb, of course, already got his just a little bit earlier on. So that lane going well so far here for Overpower.
Yeah, farming pretty well. Again, Kassadin, after the changes, he became better in the lane phase against mages because of the spell shield onto him with his Q here. So he's been using it pretty well to farm. Both solo laners though, for Rocket side. I mean, both dual lanes here. Side lanes, it's very hard. Both side lanes are actually pushing toward our Millennium, are freezing them at the moment. So Rocket, the only way they can respond is just go 5 members to the mid lane and try something.
Oh, gonna come flying through, but actually no follow-up there from Millennium. They just wanted to get him away from that turret. A 4-man push would have been pretty hard to deal with, especially with Fizz, Kha'Zix, and Thresh in there, who no, they do have the wave clear if they want to dive straight on top of the wave itself, which is never really what you want to be doing in that scenario, especially when the likes of Zyra is there to really lock you up. They're actually going to have another attempt on a push here onto this mid lane.
Their ultimate from Curb is gone here, so they should at least be able to get some damage onto it. Curb gone very aggressive though.
On that one, actually doing good damage and managed to find Bandit through the middle. Cottonex dives in there, but they're going to finish him off. Kevin now coming in from the side. That's a killer piece here. And Overpower chases over through to J-Ree. Not quite got the damage yet to finish that one off. It's 1 for 1.
So down the bottom lane, Kevin had pushed the wave all the way into Xaxus here, and then he just rotated to the mid lane, and that's why they went for this very aggressive engage. However, Rocket is staying here, and now they might be caught out again.
Overpower, the one that got stunned up there by the counter-strike, but he's gone deep and they get the kill onto Curb. Overpower in trouble though. The safeguard comes around. Will he get away from it? Kevin trying to chase, but the Rift Walk coming up just in time for him to escape. That was a risky play, but one that pays off in the end for Rocket.
They got a kill, didn't get the tower, however, so Millennium managed to defend so far. Creaton is now in his mid lane. Top lane is going to push heavily in favor of Millennium, so that's going to be a big wave building up. That's why he can go in here to try and defend and hold this very important tower for Millennium. We also saw how risky it is for Millennium to actually wave this. Because you talked about how Fizz needs to jump into the minion wave, and whenever he's too close, Rocket will just go for him, get a lot of damage onto him.
Kill gives Overpower the first one of his game, moving up towards that Rod of Ages. Now got the blasting one on top of that Catalyst from earlier. If we look at Xaxus, who's been relatively quiet here, It's definitely awarding that brush, Vander, just saying. Got his
Don't
tier,
spoil it.
got his tier first of all, and also got himself that catalyst now. There's some pretty standard stuff there for the Rise. The worrying factor is though how far he is behind Jax on that front. A kill in there for Kevin, plus the CS lead, as now they're going to try and shut down Xaxus and Curb that goes diving in. The fish will knock him up, and you see the damage already. No return whatsoever from Xaxus with the tier catalyst start.
There's no combat stats onto Rise here. He still needs to build up. He's Rod of Ages. He's going to be late. His tier is going to be hard for him to stack it up in time here. So he's going to get delayed a lot going towards his power spike in the late game, as Millennium doing a very good job trying to shut him down. And you notice how with Kevin, they kept him just to farm a lane. They didn't actually rotate him around. Now Curb going very aggressive in the mid lane here. Vander got away with the flash.
Yeah, flashing away from that one, and Millennium here trying to take advantage of this positioning, trying to get themselves in for the second dragon of the game. Of course, the first one was really nicely timed for them. Really a good job by J-Re overall getting himself in there. We are going to see Millennium take that one. Jankos is in there, but he's going to get blown up. Kevin will also flash away from the ultimate of Vander there as well. And now Xaxus is trapped inside the pit. Some good damage to Cottonex. He will ulti himself and get away from it. Xaxus did flash out there, so in the end they do manage to escape, but they still lost that one man.
They lost the one man, they lost the dragon, they lost the teleport, they lost the flash as well on to Xaxus here. A lot of things invested in trying to steal a dragon, which didn't work for them. Millennium now can respawn, get some damage onto the tower here. Will be forced to back away, however. But again, for Rocket, their decision-making for them is a bit weird, because they always end up just investing too much into something and don't actually punish Millennium for anything.
4,000 gold lead here as well. We're going to take another look down by the dragon here. And again, going over to them, Creaton got the kill onto Jankos, and look at Cottonex, his timing on his ultimate here. Had nothing left.
Remember, 4.7 the ultimate, now it's 2 seconds between the times you can actually go stealth. Almost cost him his life here, he just spammed the ulti button to get stealth again and get away from here. Otherwise he would have died, still would have been worth it because they picked up the dragon as well.
So, base check, nope, not quite, both players putting down the ward there in towards that tri-bush. Want to just touch on items here briefly as well, because the mid laners in particular have got their first ones in. Rod of Ages, of course, for Overpower. On the other side, the Lich Bane first pickup for Curb. So, you know, with the changes to that Lich Bane, there was quite a lot of talk about how strong Fizz still can be. He's obviously still strong enough in the right hands.
Still doing a lot of damage. I wouldn't say I'm surprised about the first item Lich Bane here. Most Fizz normally actually go Sheen and then build an Hourglass, and then they complete the Lich Bane here, because remember, it now scales off your base attack damage, and at the same time, you need more AP to make up for the same, because your AP ratio has been nerfed on the Lich Bane. So as a starting item, it's not as good as it was before. However, it's working for him now, and because you pick up the 2 kills, you get it fairly early and still do a lot of damage. And also his attack damage, because he got some levels, is actually high enough to make the base Lich Bane damage better than the old Lich Bane, because you need 67 attack damage, nerdy stuff, for it to be the same as the last old Lich Bane. Now he has like 83 or something. There you go, Joe.
Well, that's why we've got you for the nerdy stuff, Deficio. This could be bad news for Roccat. Celiver's going to face check straight into Cottonex, but, well, Tower's still up there behind him, and he will just dash off back towards it. Didn't really lose too much. Meanwhile, Creaton pushing his mid lane against both Lee Sin and Kassadin. That could be fairly dangerous for him. But we do see him get away to that tower. Still had flash, still had summon and heal available as well in case things got really bad for him.
And Overpower with the Rod of Ages, and wow, Curb going very aggressive again.
Yeah, Xaxus was probably going to go down from this one. Ignite is ticking away, and Curb picks up kill number 3. We said it before, no combat stats whatsoever here for Xaxus. Had no flash available to him at that time. That's a pretty easy pickup for Curb.
And he's pretty much out of the game for the next 20-25 minutes, because he has 700 gold at the moment, so he won't be able to complete the Rod of Ages. Every time he tries to farm and stack up his tier, Curb just comes in, forces him away, either kills him or just completely zones him away from the minions. So he's so far behind, his core items are so delayed. Only Overpower in the mid lane here with the fairly early Rod of Ages can actually scale now into the mid late game. Rise is just delayed so much.
Is he going to go to farm after this one? That top lane has already been his grave, so to speak, twice in a row now, both times to Curb. The last thing you want is Curb getting going here. Sorcerer Shoes now added in for him on top of that Lich Bane that we talked about early on. This mid turret though, tantalizingly low for Rocket. That will become a target for them, I'd imagine, in the pretty near future. Creatine up until now has been the man to really defend from that one. Jerry has picked himself up mobility boots in there as well, so he's nicely speeding around the map, getting that vision control strong for Millennium.
And mobility boots is so great when you play these split pushing comps, because he can move from the mid lane to either top or to bot lane in case something happens. He can join in for the fight, he can lantern someone out. We saw it earlier without the mobility boots, but still the lantern was there because he moved from the mid lane to save Creaton and also picked up a kill onto Jankos. It's a very smart pickup by Jerry. And in general, the 1-3-1 split push, we mentioned it all the way back to level 1, how Millennium wants to play the mid lane game. They don't even have to wait for the late game because of all the objective goals, because of this great start they had. They can already do it now, and that's why Kerb has been able to pick up these kills onto the Ryze, who's so weak at the moment.
Having free reign of it as well. One thing that, admittedly, I just noticed Rocket actually running with Ignite Flash on their support, no exhaust on their side, whereas Jerry running that exhaust for later. So, you know, Overpowered dives into you, throw the exhaust on him, kill him down before he can do anything.
It's actually a very, very good point. No exhaust against Fizz and Jax, and even the Kha'Zix. It's very, very scary. Whoever comes onto your carry will be able to kill the person by himself. There's no help from Vander. Yes, he can try and disengage with his ultimate, but that's about it. And there's so much mobility on the side of Millennium. They should be able to avoid the Zyro ultimate. Fizz can just jump around it. Kha'Zix, of course, can jump. Jax as well.
Millennium made the choice here to put some pressure onto the bottom turret. Rocket, will they try and hold on to it? Jankos is waiting off to the side. Mid lane is being pushed out completely by Creatine, and Kerp is in the top lane there, where Zazas is probably still quaking in his boots at the thought of the fish being thrown onto him once again.
I would actually like to see Millennium do this push just in the mid lane. Leave Jax to one-on-one down the bottom lane. He will be so strong. Creatine in a lot of trouble here. Never mind.
Uses his flash. Actually, the Q from Lee Sin, I think, was the signal. Okay, if that lands, then I'm probably dead anyway. Got himself away. That now will leave Millennium in position with Dragon just spawning in. They've gone over a ward there, though, so Rocket know that Millennium are moving in. Millennium know that Rocket know it now with that ward being put down on the backside as well. The fact is, there's no Ryze there, but there's also no Fizz there at the minute. Zazas does have himself a teleport, which, of course, Fizz can cancel out there if he uses the timings right.
Actually, one of the other reasons I wanted Millennium to pressure the mid lane with multiple members, keep Jax bottom lane to split push, keep Kerb up here against the Ryze, because then when you push down the mid lane, with the lack of wave clear on a Kassadin, it's easy for them to come all the way down towards the tower, and then they can give away the Dragon if they want to, and just rotate to the top lane, dive Zazas. There's nothing he can do if they dive onto him, take the tower and push further in. Creatine though, will he be in trouble this time?
A lot of damage coming in, Cornex coming around, Jankos having to actually kicking him away, the Collie comes out, Creatine now on a killing spree, and that will signal the Dragon push with the jungler going down. Fizz actually waiting off to the side of Cassidy. Meanwhile, Kevin just jumping away from the ultimate there of Vander. Not really a problem. This is a Dragon going over to Millennium before Rocket could even think about going to have a look.
And it's really been the story in this game. Every single time Jankos, he tries to make a gank, tries to kill someone, it completely backfires. Millennium just turn it around, kill him instantly. He's died 4 times already here. He's not been able to do anything in this game. Kerb now being chased by Overpower.
Overpower actually going to go all in on this one. There's the ultimate coming out of Kerb. Overpower going to try and dive in there for him with Zazas as well. Can he get over the wall? He does get over the wall, but Overpower will be able to chase him in just a second. Kerb going low. There's a ward inside the brush. Kerb tried to turn around to do some damage, but they just blew him up. That's a kill. The second kill even of the game for Overpower.
What Rocket needs, he just... Overpower has to go completely crazy this game on Cassidy. Like, he needs to pick up all the kills. Celebar has been doing a fairly good job trying to at least hold this tower, but he's falling behind in CS. He's not being able to have any impact on the map because Kevin just forced him to stay down bot here to defend all the time. So he's out, he's pretty much out of the game now. It's all about Overpower who needs to carry this Cassidy because they're so far behind. Millennium, as long as they keep up the pressure in the side lanes, as long as they can win the fights in the side lanes, they don't have to care though about Overpower. They just need to be careful they don't overextend. Don't let him just move from the mid lane without responding with at least taking the mid tower in return. As long as they don't do that again, it's a bit too overextended by Kerb here before. As long as they don't do it again, they should have control of it.
Worrying for ROC out there as well, the fact that Kevin spent so much time in that 1 versus 2 down bottom and still is only 20 CS behind that of Celiver on Graves. That is a Jax that is definitely rolling at this point with the Blade of the Ruin King. Got himself a Phage now as well, touching 160 CS. And Millennium starting to close in here throughout that ROC jungle. They do find Jankos. Not going to follow through though, wisely I think.
Smart enough, but they are now pushing down the mid lane. The tower is very low, so this is exactly what we wanted them to do, to get a lot of damage on it. And what also they did here, they actually took Kevin, moved him towards the top side of the map, because now him and then, let's say Cotton X or let's say Creaton can actually 2-man the Baron. Potentially 2-man it. And that's why they want to keep him in the top side, even though he has teleport. Normally you would think, why don't you move him bottom lane, force 2 members in the bottom lane, then he teleports up to the Baron. However, they want him to be around his Baron so he can try and go and take it, just him and one other member from Millennium.
They've lost his bottom turret without a question. There are 3 men down there for Millennium. ROC going to look for the answer here by finally finishing off their second turret of the game, this outer turret in the mid lane, which has been low for what feels like 10-15 minutes by now. But look at Millennium, they're going to keep going. There's a 5-man push in the box.
Rocket has to recall. They need to recall here. They're going to lose this base race so easily. Millennium were already far ahead. Also with the teleport, they're going to take another tower.
And that turret is going down. Last 2 recalls coming in here, but the inhibitor turret is already gone. Millennium decide, okay, we're going to back away from this one. No mistakes, no staying around for too long and going for the inhibitor as well. Happy with what they got.
Of course, got 2 towers here. Inhibitor is now open, so you can take your split pusher, being it Fizz or being the Jax, and now keep them in this lane here. If they kill that counterpart 1v1, they have a straight, easy way all the way down to the inhibitor, and then they force multiple members from Rocket to recall and defend it, otherwise it's gonna pretty much drop dead so easily to Millennium.
So let's have a look at some items here again. Kevin, he's well and truly on the way towards that Trinity Force. Got the Sheen now on top of his face. There's a Hex Drinker in there for Cortex. The Needlessly Large Rod was added a little while ago for Kerp, so he's got plenty of damage behind him. On the other side, of course, Rod of Ages was done for Zazas. Also, now got himself that extra blasty wand as well. For his mid laner, Overpout, he's added in the Void Staff on top of his Rod of Ages and the Sorcerer's Shoes from earlier on. Both AD carries also on their second item by now. Last Whisper was first for Celiver. On the other side, the Trinity Force, of course, we mentioned earlier for Creaton. Also got a pickaxe for his Last Whisper coming up next. So that's going to be certainly very interesting. Look at the positioning here. Millennium closing Rocket in completely.
Just doing the same thing. Split push with Jax, split push with the Fist. Keep the Jax around the Baron area so you can go over there and take it fast in case something happens. And also nobody at this point from Rocket can do anything against Kerb in his bottom lane. So if someone moves down there, try to defend, they will die, and he can just go straight into the base of Rocket. So it's big issues for them. I just looked at Ryze here. He still needs 250 mana on his tier before it's fully stacked. And also his Rod of Ages is only halfway.
Oh, Vander, I'm afraid you're not getting away from that one. They do get 2 knockups there with the ultimate out of Zyra, but what are they going to do? They can't follow through against 4 members, and that means that Fizz is going to get free reign on the bottom lane, and that was a decision that Rocket obviously needed to make. Do they fight there or do they back off? They kind of did half-half with losing a man and then sending 2 men down to help. Kerp knows that he can't now continue to push through, but that maybe opens up options on the top side and the middle of the map.
Millennium should have baited out the Baron. As soon as they got the pick onto Vandal, should have went straight into the Baron area, clear all the vision, and then force Rocket to move the the 3 remaining members, with of course Overpower being down his bottom lane to defend the 3 remaining members to try and stop them and just re-engage onto them. Instead they actually backed away, just slowly pushes some of the lanes, didn't get too much from the pick here.
Oh, Jankos actually coming on towards Kevin. Really, is that a fight you want? Not particularly. Xanthus was there in that one. And look at that for a statistic. 2.1 Dragons average per game in the spring split. Already 3 in this opening game of the season for Millennium. Definite improvement, but of course, over a lot more games. Wow. Overpower here. Gonna go down. Kerp throwing everything at him. Ignite it will be that finishes things off. That's some damage onto the inhib. Actually, Cornex and the rest of Millennium starting to move in. This could be the inhib.
He flash Q'd and used his fish, so there was no reaction time for Overpower. It was just instantly in his face. He couldn't jump around it. That's also why his flash was delayed. The fish was already on him. Beautiful play by Kerp.
And the inhib will go down here, especially with Creaton now getting into range of that one, and Millennium simply backing away from it once again. Look at the gold here. Over 10,000 gold. Millennium's lead stands 6-2 in towers. We're only 26 minutes into this game as Kurt starts to go for the red buff, but it's the Dragon that they want, and that statistic of an average of 2.1 a game from the spring split gonna be busted wide open in this one, 4 already.
But honestly, Joe, if you give her insane late game comp, everything they want early game, you give them objectives, you make sure they can farm up, you just make sure you give yourself no chance, because instantly the power spike of the Jax, of the Fist, they hit them so early in the game, nobody can handle or do anything against them in 1v1s. And then Creaton, meanwhile, he's 4-0. It's not even him who's been the highlight of the game, yet he has 4 kills and just been farming in the mid lane and always been at the right time, at the right moment to pick up a kill.
I find that Champion Select was somewhat curious in this one. Cottonex on Kha'Zix. Were they thinking, okay, the changes to Kha'Zix means that Cottonex is not going to play Kha'Zix? Because on Kha'Zix, it's been absolutely amazing. Throughout these last games, that was left open from Kevin in the promotion game against NIP was Jax and Ryze the entire time through, and we see, except they obviously played the Irelia in the last game there as well, but you know, the fact is that Jax himself, incredibly strong pick that will fit into the kind of style that Millennium really want to play for, and you have to wonder if Rocket have made a misstep that early on in this game before it even got started.
Should definitely have been a ban, but actually I think Rocket wanted to first pick the Jax. Didn't expect Kassadin to go through the pick and ban phase. When the Kassadin was open, they felt like they had to lock it in, and therefore gave the Jax over to Millennium. It was just generally smart play by Millennium in the pick and ban phase. They took a chance, and it worked for them because they got the Jax pick. Sarsus in the playoffs, he played Jax against Gambit. It did work so well for him. This time around, because Kassadin was open, they decided to first pick it instead.
Oh, there is the fish coming out once again. Kirk gonna get Jankos low. Here comes the teleport as well. Kevin gonna get involved in this, but Rocket already moving away from things, and we can see how much pressure they're under. Super minions are already coming in towards this bottom lane. That's gonna have to be forced back away by Rocket, and in the meantime, Millennium are pushing in towards the top lane inhibitor turret. Finally forced away though as Overpower comes over the wall.
But look how aggressive Kirby is. He picked up the Hourglass, so he knows he can go in. He knows there's backup from the teleport from Kevin in case something goes wrong. And he just want to find the pick, because if he kills the target again, he just opens up either the Baron, straight into the inhibitor for Millennium. They just need one more kill to open up everything.
Kevin there just spotted by Jankos as he comes flying through for a wolf camp. And if we look at the jungle items, there's a bit of a difference there. That's for
Little bit
of a difference. Actually, they're going in again towards Jankos. The hook going through. Actually was aimed at Overpower. He makes a good rift walk over the back wall. The Colleen coming through. Doesn't connect to Overpower. Cottonex was trying to jump in there and finish off that kill, but that just shows you these hooks from J-Ree being so good. Jankos, of course, did go down in that. That's another in him. And actually, the super minion there banging away on the Nexus turret.
They got the one kill they needed, also very nice hook by J-Ree, forcing Overpower completely away from the fight, and that's all they needed to push in, get second inhibitor down. Baron could be the target, but they don't actually need the Baron. They can just continue to do what they're doing now, find the target out of position, get the kill, get the last inhibitor, and then finish the game. Seems like they're going towards the Baron. Still 3 seconds on Jankos here, so he won't be able to join in. And it seems like the rest of Rocket are too far away and won't even one kill. So free Baron from Millennium.
Well, turn 3 worked out there, I think we can more say. For Millennium after picking up that kill. And let's be honest, it's 54,000 to 39,000 gold as well. You can't really be challenging for too much when you're that far behind things. I actually see Xaxus there. Finally got himself up to that Xeraphs. Overpower. Also, they're just trying to get as much farm as they can out of this one, knowing that they have to push out these lanes as far as possible to try and drag this game out to a point where Ryze is going to be a factor, because up until now, sorry for Xaxus, but he really hasn't been.
Nope, not at all. And just Rocket as a team in this game. No, we've talked about it, but the early game decisions were just awful. I mean, again, think back to the Dragon they started where the first blood came in from Millennium and the Dragon. Sarsus had used the teleport to defend mid lane. Then he walked all the way to top lane. I'll wait this because Cub's going in.
There's the fish coming out. Overpower gonna try and escape him, but, well, you can't escape the fish.
The flash this again.
5-2-1, I mean, you don't escape that.
It's instantly on you because he flashes in with the Q and then with the fish. He just activates it just before he flashes, so it actually comes with him straight after the flash. So hard to react to it. And it's just been, Kirby's been fantastic this game. The two members we talked about who needed to really be more consistent and step up the game for Millennium to go in here and be a very strong team, Creaton and Kirk, both of them have been playing fantastic.
And the push is already coming in. We see that inhibitor again in the bottom lane going down. That's two of them now open. This could very well be the final push here for Millennium. First Nexus story going down. Zaz is going to get jumped on. He'll be finished off in the end by Kevin, who also got the Nexus story on his way out. And that means the third and final inhibitor is going to be focused here. Millennium actually a little bit low from that one. I'm going to wait for the minion wave to actually come through. But 35 seconds here until Zazas comes back up. Overpower has now finally respawned in after dying to Kerp a little bit earlier on. I think that's the first ultimate that we've actually seen missing in this game so far. Bandit gets caught out. Gritton just nukes him down and goes unstoppable at 5-0. And this is going to be the game. The first win of the season for Millennium. Very, very strong performance to take down ROC.
Very, very strong by Millennium. They did so well in this game. Every time Rocket made a mistake, Millennium was there to punish them, pick up the kills, pick up the gold, and with this, with Jack's split push, with the early kills, with the early gold they got, they could just go into the 1-3-1 split push so fast, and Rocket could do absolutely nothing to respond.
Brilliant, brilliant performance from Millennium. A performance that honestly, I think you guys at home as well, we looked at the vote, 82% I believe it was coming into this one. A massive, massive number of you favoriting ROC for this, and at least it was, whilst I didn't agree with the number, it was still hard to disagree with ROC being the favourites on paper to win this game. Unchanged lineup that's done so well in that last split. Millennium, they've changed one player, of course. Bringing in Cottonex helped them to get through that promotion game to actually keep their spot in the LCS, and it seems like whatever they've done over this, what is a short space of time since they beat NAP, and today has worked wonders for them.
This was one of the first games, if you look back at the last split as well, where their decision making and the shot calling from Millennium actually was spot on.
Yeah.
And that's why whenever there was some mistake from Rocket, they could punish him. Thinking back again to this Dragon, I keep going back to this very first Dragon because Rocket had every possibility to do something where they could take a tower from Millennium and therefore save their own tower and get ahead in global gold. However, Sasus teleport to the mid lane to defend it from the dive. Then he walks all the way to the top lane, way too late. He spends about 2.5 minutes in the mid lane, farming with overpower, so the tower up top lane takes a lot of damage from Creaton. Then he decides to walk all the way up to the top tower. What happens meanwhile? The rest of Rocket are like, let's go Dragon. Our top laner, without teleport, has now walked all the way to top lane. Let's start this Dragon, even though teleport is ready on the side of Millennium. Let's take a lot of damage onto our jungler. Jerry just walks down by himself, puts the lantern, teleports in from Kevin, and Millennium turns around, picks up first blood, takes the Dragon as well. And instead of Rocket saying, either we're going to push up for the next tower, force you to keep multiple members top if you want the tower, we're going to push on to the next tower in the bottom lane, or we're going to move every single member into the mid lane and just take the mid tower. We go for this Dragon without teleport and just give everything over to Millennium. And from there on, that was it. Because Millennium just started split pushing and we're a lot stronger in every single aspect, and Rocket could do nothing to respond.
I think a problem was there that they maybe underestimated how quickly it takes now to get rid of the Dragon. And also they probably didn't expect that Jerry would simply walk down after being pushed onto his inner turret there and just have a go at them inside of that. Either way, absolutely brilliant. The other Lantern as well that Jankos followed through, Creaton taking that. Another highlight of that game. But guys, we're going to check in with Shox, who is standing by with Millennium's Creaton.
Thank you very much, Joe. Indeed, joined by Creaton after that victory with Millennium. Very impressive victory. Tell me what the strategy was going in versus ROC in this game.
So after we saw they're going for heavy late game composition, we just tried to be really aggressive early game, and that paid out. We kind of fell off the invade because we went to their blue buff too late and we didn't get a kill. I think we could have like 1 or 2 free kills there, but it still went fine for us.
So usually Millennium games go pretty long. We also saw it in the promotion tournament, yet you guys were very decisive closing it out. Is that something you've actively worked on?
The reason that we couldn't close the games in the last split was basically because of lack of practice, but we really worked hard on it and on our personal performances as well, and we just did it, so it's paying out.
Yeah, you also mentioned in the video how you really want to prove yourself personally. How is this as a start?
Actually, I don't feel like I did really well in this game. I was just freezing top lane, and then obviously I was really fat, so I could do whatever I want to do. So I didn't show anything special in this game, but I think like I still need some more time to play the game and improve and improve.
Well, we're looking forward to that. Thank you very much, Creaton. And as for us, we're going to go over to a short break, but when we come back, the Copenhagen Wolves will take on Alliance. Don't go anywhere.
Would you believe it?
A lot of damage coming out. There's the left. Oh, Jankos followed him through. The Hulk comes in as well. And Jankos goes down. Definite improvement, but of course, over a lot more games before. Overpower here. Gonna go down. Come throwing everything at him. Ignite it will be